All right, now see, we can have a real class in session because
Okay.
we have trimmed the proverbial fat. We have
I'm
released
gonna
the
comment
dead
that.
weight. We
I'm
have no
not,
we have no anchors. We have
I'm not no comment.
no ball and chain, no
That
dead
could go
weight.
a lot of ways. I'm not gonna say nothing. That could go a lot of ways.
We have elevated the conversation that we can talk about
Hey,
what
good stuff.
needs to be talked about in this world.
Hey Doc, how
Yeah,
you doing?
I can't call it. You know,
Hey,
I'm
Cole.
I'm I'm a little happy. I'm on page, I think 253, editing through me and my son's first book.
Oh, good.
So it's at 371 pages right now. Um, so yeah, I'm feeling good about that. I meet with an editor from University of Arkansas later this month. I think it's the 22nd,
Right.
and kind of get some understanding of where my topic stands and what type of reception I can expect from publishers. So yeah,
Good.
yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. What are you working on? What's going on in your end of the world?
Uh, actually, I'm not gonna say I'm trying. I'm actually doing a pilot, pilot program using brain-based concepts in response to educational environments, more specifically juvenile educational environments.
What is a brain-based concept?
Uh, being a brain coach, there are various techniques like any other, I guess, um, educational social program. But I wanted to apply a lot of the brain coaching techniques and concepts to juvenile settings, which typically are more restrictive settings, and to see if I have the same outcomes as students I deal with on a regular basis or public ed kids, to see if there's any change in cognition, behavior, response to different stimuli, and so forth and so on. So that's what I'm working on.
What is a brain coach?
Brain coach is a person that helps direct a person who may be having difficulties in various areas. May not necessarily need a counselor, just need somebody to kind of guide them and say, okay, have you tried this? Have you done this? I suppose somebody who, comes to someone with a diagnosis and says, okay, well, we're gonna put you on this, we're gonna try this, we're gonna try that, right?
Okay.
Sometimes God, people need somebody just to kind of guide them through life situations as opposed to counseling them through uh, various areas of life. You know what I'm saying? So
It,
the different techniques that can be used that are not necessarily therapeutic
okay.
as opposed to just self-developmental.
Is it similar to a life coach?
Yep. Some
Okay.
similarities. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
So some people won't go to therapy, but they may seek a life coach. Um, which they may find to be, I wouldn't necessarily say like, less threatening or less, you know what I'm saying? But some people have some angst about going to counselors, but they may go to a coach. Now, thing, get to a point in time in my coaching sessions, I may get to a point in time within the coaching realm, I may refer to somebody to go seek some deeper counseling or go find somebody who may help them in various areas that I'm not an expertise in, right?
Mhm.
I think because I've had a lot of mental health experience in the past in terms of working with kids in crises, working with kids with various mental disorders. I can recognize like when okay, this is a little bit above my head. You may want to seek some other professional help. that allows me to have that avenue to make that suggestion to someone.
Hmm. So who actually seeks a life coach? Is this a person that lacks something in the natural structure, or is it a person that needs somebody outside of the natural structure? Um, who seeks a life coach?
I think that that could be anyone who doesn't feel as if they're ready to seek any therapeutic help. Sometimes people, they don't want someone, or the stigma of mental health and mental illness is can be pretty overwhelming for a lot of people, right? So I think we've been trained to look for folks who typically are in that realm of counseling, or they may look to therapy, and the therapy may not be necessarily what they desire, what they need. They may need someone to kind of help them, guide them through, whatever. I think that uh, because this is a relatively new concept, people haven't caught on to. I just kind of need somebody to help me figure some stuff out. I don't need somebody to have me sit on the couch and talk quietly to me
Mhm.
for the next 45 minutes to an hour. I don't need that, right? What happens is also, Doc, some people, when they go through therapy and counseling, some people are constantly re-traumatized by what's going on because they have to constantly retell
I've
what
heard
happened,
that.
right? I don't have that pressure on me, right? I'm like, okay, well, here's the situation. Let's figure this out. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about how you might do if you were to be introduced to whatever. And I give them those options without any judgment. And I'm not saying necessarily that therapists judge, but without any feelings of shame or guilt or regret, but to allow them to work through that in a
Mhm.
systematic fashion that allows them to kind of own up to wherever they are and to keep it rolling.
Now, is there a lack of aunts, uncles, coaches? Because back in the day, that's who that was. They were
Yeah.
called mentors or elders.
Mhm.
Is there is is there a lack of that in society now? Because I mean, it. I would have just looking at my life. I would have to go past my dad, my oldest brother, my mom, my in-laws, friends that I've had for 20, 30 plus years to seek a life coach. That's a lot of people for me to go past.
Right.
Um, who who's is, what is the structure of the people that go to this life coach?
I mean that could be anybody. I think what people have difficulty in doing is developing what I've seen lately, because we pretty much grew up in the same era of time. Now, I think there's been a lack of continuity, even a lack of visibility in connection with a lot of young folks, right? So I don't think that a lot of kids have those same connections. I don't think they have those same accountability standards. I don't think they have those that same type of support systems as we've had, what, 5, 10,
Uh,
15, 20, 30 years ago. I just don't see it sometimes.
you're in
And
trouble
what
now.
happens is, as
You're
as as a brain coach or as a life coach, what happens is when you talk to somebody outside of that circle, they don't feel as pressured to answer certain questions or address certain issues, because the shame and guilt of having to talk about those particular situations are kind of like not they're not barriers, right? So I get a lot of people who are more open to talk about certain issues more so than they would be with cousin, homie, whatever the case may be. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? And
So,
who's gonna give them some structured feedback without without the judgment, right?
all right, that's that's fair. That's fair. Are these generally older people, younger people, or broad
I mean,
range?
I got people from all ages. I've got people from all ages, right? So right now, because of the facility I work in, of course, I deal more with young folks.
Mhm.
But I've had some older folks who tremendous guilt and shame because of past experiences,
So
and they don't necessarily want to go to a counselor per se, but I
is it
may give them some other options and avenues before they seek counseling and therapy.
okay? And now I'm hearing a lot about guilt and shame. Now I was thinking a life coach is just kind of navigating my way through life. Uh,
But yeah,
uh,
it's
okay,
true.
but well, I
It's
feel
true.
guilt and shame because I don't know, how to spend my money right, or my wife ain't speaking to me, or
What happened?
maybe I should.
Well, what happens, Doc, is that well, now, sometimes in our experiences, we have a lot of pent up emotions and situations that should have been solved, could have been solved, but we take certain ways out of situations to where it doesn't allow us to address those situations and act out in certain other areas. Now, I'm a restorative practitioner also, so when I say removing shame and guilt associated with the relationship or with relationships, that actually starts with myself. And a lot of times, man, we don't address those issues.
Now
We don't
you
we,
can't
we act out in various other ways.
you can't use big words with me. You can't say that I'm a
Big word. That's
restorative
close.
a restorative practitioner. Is that what
Okay,
you said?
okay, okay. Okay,
What's
so
that?
here it is now. Restorative practice is the practice of establishing healthy relationships with myself and the environment that I work in, right? If there's
Oh,
conflict that appears within the relationship, then as a restorative practitioner, I give folks various tools that they can use to one, remove the shame and guilt associated with the situation and restore themselves back into the relationship.
so a restorative practitioner not only is worried about the problem, but how they exist or contribute to the problem.
Yes. Or how that problem affects them as opposed to how they respond to the problem.
Okay,
Because we internalize a lot of stuff consciously and subconsciously. We deal with a whole lot of stuff, man. A
really,
lot of stuff. Yes.
Grandmaster Steele, what you make sense of this?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good
Duane
afternoon.
Steele here, one of Doc's friends uh, and fraternity brothers. I Can you bring me up to speed? I'm so sorry I came in a little late, but bring me up to speed to the topic and how we got to this restorative piece.
All right, Mr. Grimes was telling me that I need to elevate myself as a man.
Doc, I did not say
Joking,
Come on.
joking. He was explaining to me about not only in addition to be an educator,
Mm-hmm.
that for we were talking about what we were working on. And he was saying that he was implementing some techniques in his classroom that he uses as a brain coach, which would make me ask, what is a brain coach? And he explained to me what a brain coach was, which is essentially what you and I may know as a life coach. Whereas you're not necessarily um, a clinician, so to speak, but you are a wise, generally elder or experienced person that helps someone else navigate their way through life. And I
Okay.
said, okay, what type of framework are the people who use life coaches working with?
Mm.
Because in my experience, it stopped me when I get to the part that you know what I'm talking about, where I said, in my experience, I have my oldest brother, I got my dad,
Mm-hmm.
or my parents, I got my in-laws, I got friends I've had for many, many years. Um, and now you sitting here, you remind me I belong to a Masonic organization that should be or could be a resource.
Mm-hmm.
What type of framework are these people, particularly men, experiencing as to where that is so absent that I'm looking outside of those many rings of protection and information I have around me to seek out a life coach? And his point was, well, in some stuff you don't want the people in these rings of comfort that you have to know.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
some people are embarrassed about um my money not
Things
being
that
right.
have happened in their life that have caused them to be who they are.
Right. Right. And I okay, go ahead.
So when I came in, I thought, especially when you said that to me, that we were thinking, I was coming into a discussion that was looking at how to best approach, connect with our young men to help them
Mhm.
move into manhood. Because
That's
I
primarily.
am,
Mhm.
because I am a product of my environment, my past experiences. And at 61, yes, there will be change in the next 10, 20 years, but the development to who I am right now and what I can offer any young, specifically Black male, is based on my current past experiences and life experiences.
Mhm.
So one of the things, and I was hearing that, and we talking about who might accept the information. I thought about my kids because I have nothing but men, boys. Well,
Mhm.
I had males. They're all men now. And of course, throughout their growth, I was spitting as much knowledge as I possibly could. But Darnell could come over and talk to one of my sons and tell him the exact same thing I've been telling him, and they gonna listen to him and not me. And so, Brother Grimes, I was thinking about that shame and everything that you were talking about and saying, so you have to step back sometimes and let that happen.
Mm.
Sometimes somebody told me something that was so profound, man, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I hate it because I believe that it's probably true. Is that especially like with my oldest son, he's 38. Uh, Sometimes I see that light bulb and I'm like, "Ooh, Lord, he's got." And then sometimes I see the same old impulsive, foolish behavior that I've seen in the past. And somebody said, you know, you he'll never be a real man until you're gone.
Oh.
And when you're gone, everything that you planted will start to bloom. But sometimes it doesn't bloom until you're gone, till that reality sets in. And then you start realizing that I don't have that crutch anymore. Now I have to listen to something that we've been taught against is to listen to your ancestors. We've been told that that's voodoo, and that's don't do that. Don't be talking
Uh-oh.
to no dead people. No,
Uh-oh.
sometimes that connection with your ancestry resonates and then starts to develop fruit. And
Is the
so,
ch- Has the church been harmful to us in that way?
Oh Lord, man, oh man, I hate to say
Stop
it.
it.
I hate to say it,
Going on a whole nother tangent, man. Stop
man.
that.
I hate to
Hey,
say it.
hey, I didn't bring it up.
I hate to say it, man. I really do believe religion has messed us up. Spirituality,
Whoa.
spirituality, and you're talking to a deacon.
I
I'm,
know.
I'm just, man. It's starting to, as I get older and I become more in tune with my spirituality, I'm starting to dislike the religion that I connected with. Now, not to say anything bad about it, because I think at the end of the day, the goal is to create an environment where people care more, as much about others as they do
Mm-hmm.
about themselves, or to learn to care about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that, you really have to understand that the spirituality is within you,
Mm-hmm.
and that, you know, if we want to hold on to the Bible teachings, let's be real. What did it say? It ain't never said you to worship the Son. You're supposed to worship the Father. And when the Son left, the Holy Spirit was left in you, which means you have a direct connection. If we start to learn how to tap into that direct connection, then we really start to bear the fruits of that religious dogma that's out there.
I think that, and Darius, you don't have to keep your camera and microphone off. You can jump on in, son. By the way, that's Dr. Stevens' son, Dr. Stevens' son, Darius. Look at him. There he is.
Hey, how you
How
doing?
y'all doing? How everybody doing? No, I'm just listening. I'm just taking it in. I feel like it's some good things being said. I think what you just said as far as the religion and everything. I feel like that was my first time. I've always kind of had that revelation myself, but my first time actually hearing somebody that comes from a religious background saying it, I think that's big. You know what I'm saying? It's just confirmation, I guess, to hear it. Um, to hear it. So I think a lot of stuff, that you guys been saying has just been powerful. It's important. To go back to the life coach thing too. I kind of see somebody and kind of talk to them about and kind of use them as a resource as a life coach. And I think it is really helpful just because it helped me mentally just work out what I'm going through, whether it's relationship wise, whether it's career wise. So I mean, and it's less pressure. It's less formal to me, and I feel like that kind of helps out a little bit and makes it easier.
Now, was it because I know the framework you have, me
Uh,
being part of your framework.
right.
So, what was it that you wanted to get somebody outside of your circles? What was it? Because I don't want Big Unc to know this, or mom be tripping sometimes. What would I'm that?
Yeah, no, it's somewhat that aspect of you, the people around, you might feel judged, I guess, if you talk to some of the people around. Not saying that, I get that feeling from you or, even my mama, for example, but it's just like, okay, it's a little bit more structured to where, I could if I tell my mama some things, then try to she might try to use like, or she might be biased by past experiences that we've had. You know what I mean? And that might
Okay, that's
that
fair.
might kind of change her response to me, versus if I'm talking to somebody who I kind of really don't know and who really don't know me, they only could listen to what I'm saying, and it's kind of objective when they give me feedback.
All right,
And
now.
Darius, I'm glad you said it because Dr. Darnell, praise just proved what I was saying. So no, because what happens is we feel less threatened by individuals who may not have a may not have the option to bias us, right? We may be more willing to open up. We may be more willing to talk, but also from a coaching standpoint, not to feel like, okay, this dude gonna think I'm crazy. And it's not about that. Now, doing what I do as a brain coach, as a life coach, I deal more with the neuroscience portion of what makes people do what they do. I come more from a neuroscience, like how the brain works, how the brain responds to certain situations, which allows individuals to connect, like how they're feeling, mentally, emotionally, and how that has an impact on the choices in which they make. So I talk a lot about brain development, brain health, cognition. I talk about those things.
That's why you and Dr. Stevens get along, because she was talking about in the last class and session, what was that
ACEs.
system? No.
ACEs.
No, she was saying the part, she was talking about ACEs, but she was saying that, oh man,
The limbic,
I gotta
the
go.
limbic,
Huh?
the limbic system,
It wasn't the limbic system, it was
or
another one.
the parasympathetic portion, the sympathetic portion of the brain.
She was saying, Darius, do you remember?
Yeah, so she big on like the different, I guess I don't know what to call them really because I forget what she called them exactly, but I guess it's the different parts of the brain that
Yeah,
govern our thoughts and our movement. So
it
I know
is.
one of them is psychomotor skills. So like,
Yeah,
you know, how you
that's
move, like we could play
parietal,
basketball or something.
parietal area. Yeah,
Yeah. eh,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I deal. That's the stuff I deal with. That's the kind of stuff I deal with, like the frontal lobe,
Okay.
prefrontal cortex, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital areas. Yeah. So,
See what I gotta deal with, Grandmaster Steele.
uh,
People get on here,
but
they
still
use
don't.
big words.
Hey,
They
That's
use
district deputy grandmaster. Let's not get it confused. I do not want any
yeah.
heat
First of all,
coming
y'all
down.
gotta. Yeah. First of all, y'all gotta forgive me. I'm just a lowly Kappa brother. I don't do all the other stuff y'all do.
And
I don't know.
excuse me for promoting today, but
You know,
today is
seriously,
my chapter's 100th year, so I'm just
just trying to
oh,
do it even if I couldn't be
trying to
okay.
just stay in my corner of the world. So I know y'all control everything. I just try to stay in my corner.
She was Dr. Stevens was talking about the affective system, A F
Yeah,
F E
that's it.
C
The
T I V
affects it.
E.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
your emotional regulation
Yes,
and how
that's within
your
that area.
and she was saying how your emotional regulation can affect your limbic system, your psychomotor system, and your cognitive system. How you
Yes,
feel will shut down or decrease the ability of those other ones to function.
yes,
So I'm assuming in what you're saying and what Darius was good enough to clarify us on is um if I don't feel right, if I'm feeling shame, if I'm feeling you're going to bring up old job, if I'm feeling you're not going to hear me because of whatever, I'm not going to get the information I need. So that will induce me to find someone who doesn't necessarily bring up any emotion so we can just deal with information. Am I
there.
you go ahead, Steele. Go ahead.
So let me ask this. So are we talking about how we can be effective um, life coaches to even people that we know or that we have a relationship with, such as blood relationship? Or are we looking at why those relationships don't always yield the response that someone in trouble is looking for, and why it is important to have outside influence that is speaking the same language? I mean, which are we looking at?
I'm actually I'm actually wide open and I'm getting
Okay.
information because I completely this is a new concept to me. And it's kind of a soft area in between education and your uh, social framework that you have to build yourself as a person. This is this loose area. And I'm
Let me
just
ask
actually,
So let me ask you this. How much do you all think, especially Brother Grimes, who's looking at why we think the way we think, or what portions of our brain are the receptors that send out those emotions or feelings? How much do you all believe your diet makes a difference? That what you intake can affect your neurological responses.
I think that's
And what are we doing
right to change that? Yeah. Okay. I think that is a tremendous part of. Tell you, I'll be honest with you. I think diet is one of the cornerstone building blocks to why we do anything and everything, and how we eat. Whether it be, we eat for a lot of reasons, just not for nutrition, right? We emotionally eat. We eat when we're happy. We eat when we're mad. We eat, and so we've kind of associated that in the construct of how we live. Period. But it's not so much how we eat, but it's what we eat in the process. And a lot of processed stuff we eat has a negative effect on how we process this up here because we're not getting the nutrients necessary to fuel us, to give us the power to think cognitively. Eat a bunch of heavy food, y'all, and just have an in-depth conversation. It's just, and that typically was what happened. When we eat, next thing you know, I'm kicking back, got, a couple of brews. I may have some brown, you know what I'm saying? And then I may smoke me a little, cigar. And then all of that, which are toxic, has an effect on how I process what I'm thinking.
Yep.
What you got to say,
And so,
Darius?
If I could add, I really think, and it goes back to what my mom kind of talks about as far as the emotional health. I believe that your diet, your workout habits directly affect your emotional experience or your emotional state. Because I would say about 3 or 4 months ago, I hadn't been working out. I had lost probably about 10 or 15 pounds. And, over the Christmas break, I kind of just sat down and I just started working out again. I started changing up a little bit how I eat, and it just made a huge difference. And even when I talked to my mom, I know Darnell, she kind of had the heart problem or whatever. And when she went to the doctor told her that diabetes is reversible, and that if you work out and if you eat better, then you won't even have some of those diabetic problems that you have. So, when I work out, and I usually try to work out, every day. Now that I done kind of got into a routine, I know it's hard, just with working and stuff. But when I work out, it kind of set the tone for my whole day. Like I have an emotional I have a better day emotionally when I work out in the morning and then I go to work. And you would think that, oh, you working out in the morning, you're gonna be tired throughout the day. Like you don't. You actually have more energy. You able to just think clear, and it just kind of set the tone for everything you're doing.
Now I'm with you on that. I definitely think exercise, because exercise has a direct metabolic and physical response to what you're doing. I probably have the worst diet of anybody in the world. For dinner, I probably
There's that
had
shame and guilt.
Snickers. No, no,
Same and
I
guilt.
lean,
Hey,
I lean,
me,
I
hey,
lean
me and
right
Doc.
into it. But you know what? The biggest thing I think, especially when people are talking about diet and eating, or diet and thinking, I know I probably, well, I shouldn't say I'm the last person to quote the Bible, but as a person who is not a Christian, I like I said, I was Christian for over 40 years, and I've read the Bible 7 times. Um, I hearken back to the portion of the Bible where Jesus said, "What comes out of your mouth is way more important than what goes in your mouth."
Hmm.
So I am not necessarily a believer in your stomach controlling your head as much as your heart controlling your head. What kind of person you are is going to come out no matter what you eat.
But Doc, there's a direct correlation between what you eat and how you think. Your digestive system and your cognibility are really directly connected. You know, somebody says, well, you got butterflies in your stomach, or they make
Mm-hmm.
a reference to your nervous stomach.
Mm-hmm.
There's a direct connection between how you process information and how your digestive system actually works.
I got
So,
you on
so
that,
yeah,
and again, that's a whole nother kind of doctor than what I am. But what I'm also saying is, what it. I
yes.
think your brain controls if you
So,
digest, not
so,
necessarily what you digest. It
so
could be garbage or
I hear what
lettuce.
you
I think they're connected.
I hear what you're saying. I believe there's an extreme connection. Let me lay it out. So you know, Darnell, that we're
Uh-huh.
gardeners, big
Uh-huh.
gardeners. You know what I mean? And you know, we've been starting to get off into some exotic fruits, but part of that reason is because we want to consume something that is going to be beneficial for our bodies. So they say you can't survive without water, right? You gotta have
Right.
water. But why not have God's water
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to that bottled water that you think is keeping you from the tap water chemicals? But you know, it's in plastic. Yep, in plastic. Been sitting out in the sun in front of the store for about 5, months. There is, and so like we've
Mm-hmm.
gotten off into dragon fruit. As a matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, I've gotten some cuttings, and I'm starting to cultivate my own dragon fruit.
Okay.
Uh, Pineapples, you know what I mean? I'm growing my own pineapples. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the vegetables that we eat, you know, they're not going to be processed. They're not going to be full of the chemicals that they coat it with, so that they can ship. But see, how many people actually wash their fruit and vegetables before they consume them with all those chemicals and this, that, and that. So not even your commercially bought good things